take revenge on Mom for me? 6 months after William's death, I visited his grave with James. Since his passing, there's been an emptiness in my heart. The moments we shared, the places we explored, the meals we enjoyed. I know William wouldn't want me to dwell in sorrow forever. Although I'm aware of this, tears still come unexpectedly when I think of him. I want to move forward, but I'm unsure how to do it. I was living a life filled with anxiety about my next steps. However, after we visited the grave, as we were heading back, James handed me a slightly bulging envelope, which seemed to lift the haze from my mind. This is a letter from William. With some hesitation, I took the letter from James and opened it when I got home. Inside, I found several letters on a USB drive and a few photos. As I looked through them, I realized William had been involved in something serious. At that moment, I understood I needed to move forward for his sake. My name is Mary. I'm 35 years old. I work at a small local company and lead a quiet and comfortable life. After leaving the bustling office, I come home and turn on the lights. Since I'm unmarried, there's no one to greet me, but that's fine. I have no plans to marry again. For me, there was only one husband. 2 years ago, I had a husband named William, but he passed away. He took his own life. I met William in college when I joined the club he was part of. We weren't close initially. Our relationship quickly deepened one night after a party. I wasn't of legal drinking age at that time, so I watched my friends get drunk while I sipped on a soft drink. When the party ended and we were heading home, it turned out William and I were going the same way. I'm heading home too. If you want, I can walk you back. Really? Are you sure it's no trouble? Yeah, I'd feel better if I walked you home. Thank you so much. Though we hadn't spoken much before, William showed concern for me. His kindness flustered me in a way that was both embarrassing and endearing. The quiet night surrounded us, with only the sound of our footsteps breaking the silence. I felt a mix of excitement from the night's unique atmosphere and a bit of awkwardness. There was no conversation, which was natural given our limited interaction before, but it still felt uncomfortable. However, William soon broke the silence. Sorry about tonight. What do you mean? I asked, confused. You know, the guys who drank too much and got rowdy. It must have been tough dealing with them. Oh no, it was fine. William apologized, scratching his head. I had been thinking about how much fun everyone seemed to be having. I can't wait until I'm old enough to drink too. Is that so? Hearing this, William smiled. His words broke the ice, and we started talking more comfortably. We began with college stories and moved on to more personal topics like our hobbies and favorite foods. It wasn't a thrilling conversation, but I enjoyed talking with William. I found myself hoping we could have more conversations like this soon. My wish came true. After our walk home together, William began to talk to me more frequently. Gradually, we started walking home together regularly and even went out to eat, just the two of us. 6 months after that party, we officially started dating. Despite being in different departments, we spent a lot of time together, and every day was filled with joy and happiness. Even after William and I started working, our relationship remained strong. We talked about work, shared our frustrations about our bosses, and reminisced about our college days. Our conversations evolved, but the bond between us grew stronger. Initially, I found it hard to adjust to work, but with William's support, I managed to overcome those challenges. I felt incredibly lucky to be dating such a wonderful man, and often imagined how wonderful it would be to marry him someday. It turns out he felt the same way. 8 years into our relationship, William proposed to me. I will make you happy, he said, looking into my eyes and sharing his heartfelt emotions. I had no reason to say no. I'm glad to be with you, I replied. And so, we got married. Finally, I became William's wife. I remember feeling an overwhelming sense of happiness, as if I were living in a dream. Our closeness remained unchanged even after marriage. It was very comfortable, and I felt immense happiness being married to him. But starting a new life together brought its own set of challenges. Getting used to living together wasn't easy, and we both had our struggles. During these times, my mother-in-law, Emily, was a great help. Like William, she was incredibly kind. Although her husband had passed away, he must have been as kind-hearted as William and Emily. "Are you okay? Is there anything troubling you?" Emily often asked. We sometimes talked over the phone, and since she lived nearby, she would visit us frequently. She kindly taught me how to cook and shared useful life tips. Often we would have meals together with Emily. There wasn't a set schedule, but she probably considered that I'd be coming home from work on weekday nights. "I'll take care of everything, Mary. You just rest." "But I can't let you do everything, Emily." "It's fine. You must be tired from work, right? Don't worry about me, okay?" "Oh, thank you." At first, I felt like I was depending too much on Emily and often felt guilty. However, as I spent more time with her, I realized she genuinely enjoyed interacting with us. From then on, I could spend time with Emily without feeling tense. It was as if all the anxiety I had felt since we started interacting just melted away. "My only child is William, so it's fun for me to talk with someone his age like you," Emily once said. Emily treated me like her own daughter. On my days off, it wasn't uncommon for us to go shopping together. At home, we often brewed our favorite teas and chatted about various topics. Being far from my parents and not able to see them often, I was grateful for Emily's attention and care. However, this peaceful life quickly fell apart. The catalyst was when Emily decided to open a cafe. She had mentioned wanting to open one before, so it wasn't a total surprise. What shocked me was William's decision to quit his job to help her. Still, I sincerely wished him the best and agreed. I decided to support our household until William's income stabilized. Perhaps because there were no competitors, Emily's cafe took off faster than we expected. "People are coming in more than I thought. Mom seems happy about it," William said. "That's great. Are there any regulars?" I asked. "Yeah, there are a few." "That's good to hear. I've had some of her trial dishes, and they were delicious. I can see why you have regulars." Hearing my words, William smiled shyly. After that, Emily's cafe continued to thrive with a steady stream of customers. They even got featured in a magazine, which seemed to increase the number of visitors. It's nice that so many people come. It's not too busy, but it's still tough managing just the two of us. William laughed, looking a bit troubled but happy that the shop was thriving. I was glad things seemed to be going well. But a year after the shop opened, I began to notice William sighing more often. I wondered if I should just leave him be, but the frequent sighs were too concerning to ignore. Trying to be tactful, I decided to ask William about it. "Are you okay lately?" "Okay? What do you mean?" "Well, I've noticed you've been sighing a lot lately. I wondered if you might be having some trouble. It's okay if you don't want to talk about it." "Oh, I didn't realize I was doing that." It seemed he wasn't aware of his sighs. That made me even more worried as it suggested he was stressed. "Well, things at the shop haven't been going so well?" "The shop?" Apparently a similar concept cafe opened nearby. It's quite trendy and stylish. Customers who used to come are now going to the new shop, and the foot traffic has been dwindling. It's not like there's any problem with the management yet, but it's getting worrying. Or maybe tougher. Mom is worried too. She always looks sad. I felt a pang of concern. The success of Emily's cafe had been a source of joy for all of us, and seeing William and Emily stressed was difficult. William held his head and sighed deeply again. Although I wanted to help after hearing his concerns, there wasn't much I could do. The only things I could do for the shop were to visit myself and promote it to others, It's indirect, and I'm not sure if it will be effective. When I went to the shop after talking to him, Emily's expression was as cloudy as he said. There were fewer customers than before, and it was clear why. Ah, Mary. William told you everything, didn't he? Yes. I'm trying to figure out what to do. I mean, I'm promoting the place to people around me. Oh, thank you. Emily smiled weakly behind the counter and looked down at her cup. If the decline in customers continues, if the shop goes under... I couldn't help but imagine the worst and felt gloomy. While drinking coffee, I pondered if there was anything else I could do. However, my worries ended up being unnecessary. A month after hearing William's concerns, incredibly, the new store that had opened closed down. As a result, Emily's cafe regained its liveliness. That store closed, huh? I was surprised, I remarked. That's right, I was surprised too, Emily responded with a pleased smile to my words. However, I felt something off about her reaction. It was as if she knew the store was going to close. If she knew it would close, but I couldn't just ask her. I thought it must be just my imagination and continued the conversation with Emily. William, who was listening to our conversation, also spoke up. Yeah, it's a bit strange how quickly it closed, he said, looking thoughtful. But I'm just glad things are back to normal for us. Me too, I agreed. It's such a relief to see the cafe bustling again. Emily nodded, her smile never wavering. Yes, it's wonderful. Let's just focus on keeping our customers happy. Certainly. Here's a rewritten version of the script with some changes in wording while keeping the meaning intact. But following this incident, strange occurrences began unfolding around the shop. Other establishments started shutting down, except for Emily's cafe. Within a month, at least 3 similar cafes had closed their doors. Have you noticed that a lot of shops around here have been closing recently? I casually mentioned during my visit to Emily's cafe. Yes, it's quite surprising, but we seem to be gaining their customers, so it's a bit of a relief, Emily replied. I expected Emily to find the closures suspicious, but she didn't seem concerned. Though her words expressed surprise, her demeanor suggested she might have some insight. Did you have much interaction with the other shops? We had some dealings, but I didn't foresee this. It's really unexpected, isn't it? Emily seemed somewhat pleased about the closures. However, I couldn't comprehend her emotions in such a situation. I would have felt more apprehensive than relieved. It's unusual for 3 shops to close within such a short span. What's going on here? I couldn't come up with any explanation, and pondering it didn't yield any answers. I also noticed something odd about William. Despite the cafe's growing popularity, he didn't seem joyful. Just like before, he sighed often and appeared troubled. Given the cafe's success, this demeanor seemed out of place. Could there be another issue troubling him? As before, I cautiously probed William about his concerns. What's been on your mind lately? You seem preoccupied. Oh, Yes. Was he so overwhelmed that he hadn't noticed it himself? I gazed at William, waiting for him to open up. However, he seemed reluctant to share. He avoided eye contact and nervously touched his nose. No, it's nothing serious. Are you sure everything's all right? Yeah, I'm fine. Please don't worry about me. I don't want to talk about it, really. Not at all. William sighed deeply again and walked away from me. It was clear he was troubled, but since he didn't want to discuss it, I respected his decision. I hoped he would open up when he felt ready. Unfortunately, events unfolded that made me regret not pushing the conversation at that time. 6 months after the consecutive closures of nearby shops, William passed away. It wasn't due to illness or an accident. He had taken his own life. It appeared he had been grappling with issues, but I never anticipated such an outcome. It was all so sudden, and I struggled to comprehend what had transpired. Before I knew it, everything progressed, and William was cremated. What should I do now? How do I go on without him? Emily's voice was barely audible as she stared at William's portrait. It was clear she never expected to outlive her son. They had always been incredibly close, and the depth of her grief was palpable. I can't believe this has happened, I murmured, gently rubbing Emily's back. Her figure felt smaller and more fragile than I had ever noticed before. Despite her grief, there was something about Emily's demeanor that caught my attention. "Emily, are you all right?" I asked, continuing to comfort her. "Oh, yes, I'm fine," Emily replied, her voice trembling slightly. "If there's anything I can do to help, please let me know. I'm here for you," I assured her. "Thank you, but really, I'll be okay," Emily said, trying to compose herself. "All right." I sensed something wasn't quite right, but it was understandable given the circumstances of losing her son. I decided to silently support Emily without probing further. Time passed, and before I knew it, 6 months had slipped by since William's passing. Yet, for me, time seemed to stand still. Going through William's belongings and clearing out our shared space, his presence lingered in every corner of my mind. We had built so many memories together over the years. Moving forward seemed daunting. Yet William wouldn't have wanted me to remain stuck. An unexpected invitation spurred me to face the future. One day I received a call from James, an old college friend of William's. "James, it's unusual for you to call. What's up?" "Just a small thing," James replied casually. He had attended William's funeral, and our recent conversation lingered in my thoughts. "Do you want to visit William's grave? There's something important I need to share with you," James proposed. "A visit to the grave? I'm okay with that, but what about your wife?" I asked, concerned about any potential discomfort. "Yeah, she's fine with it," James assured me. It seemed James intended for just the two of us to visit the grave, considering he had something specific to discuss. Despite my curiosity about his wife's reaction, everything seemed settled. 2 weeks later, James and I made our way to William's grave. "How have you been holding up since William passed?" James asked, breaking the silence as we walked. "I've been managing to keep going to work," I replied quietly. "I see." At the grave, we placed flowers and paid our respects, then quietly departed. "It's strange, isn't it, visiting William's grave at our age?" James remarked, attempting to lighten the mood with conversation. "Yeah, it is," I replied softly. James tried to engage me further, but I didn't have the energy to prolong the discussion. We fell into a silence that lingered until James finally spoke up again. "The reason I wanted to talk to you today is—" James paused, handing me a slightly bulging envelope. "A letter?" I asked, surprised. "Yes, a letter from William. This is what I wanted to share with you. Something he wanted you to have," James explained solemnly. I couldn't believe William had entrusted a letter to James. I took the envelope, staring at it in disbelief. "After William passed, this letter was delivered to my house. It seems he sent it ahead of time," James continued. "Ahead of time?" I echoed, my mind swirling with questions. "In the letter, he wrote that it should be given to you 6 months after his passing. Why he arranged it this way, I don't know," James said softly. My thoughts raced as I held the envelope, wondering what message William had left for me. There should be a paper inside the envelope detailing William's thoughts. "Can I look inside?" I asked James, but he shook his head. "Not here. Not here." After looking around, he whispered to me, "Do it at home. Make sure no one finds out, especially not William's mother." "Why?" "There should be a document inside detailing William's thoughts." "Can I see it?" I asked James. but he shook his head. Not here. Definitely not here. He glanced around cautiously before whispering, Wait until you're home. Don't let anyone find out, especially not Emily. Why? I questioned. It's in William's letter. I don't know what it says, but I'm counting on you. James's uneasy expression shifted, his eyes locking onto mine. Do you understand? I nodded silently, carefully stowing the envelope in my bag. After parting ways with James, I hurried home. Once there, I gingerly opened the envelope he had given me. What could William have left? If it's something Emily shouldn't see, it might not be pleasant. Nervousness and anxiety coursed through me, my hands trembling as I opened the thick stack of papers. Take revenge on Mom for me. The sentence at the top sent a chill down my spine. As I read further, the letter revealed shocking details about Emily. This can't be... The revelations were overwhelming, difficult to accept all at once. I turned to the photos in the USB drive. Could it be true? I struggled to comprehend, my mind recoiling from the implications, but I couldn't avoid it. I picked up the letter again and continued reading. The content remained unchanged no matter how many times I read it, my hands trembling more with each passing moment. Emily was involved with the mafia. William's letter contained evidence that Emily had colluded with them to protect her business. The USB and photos provided concrete proof. Emily had initially resisted the mafia's demands for protection money when her business started. However, when a rival shop threatened her livelihood, she reluctantly agreed to their terms. From then on, Emily's ties with the mafia deepened. All of this was laid out in William's letter. He had witnessed Emily's dealings firsthand, even being involved himself. I can't bear it any longer. I'm truly sorry. The letter concluded. William's suicide was a result of the unbearable situation he found himself in. It was a burden he couldn't share with anyone. Now that I understood why he asked me not to worry, I couldn't shake the feeling that I should have pushed him to open up. It filled me with a deep sense of regret. Thinking of William brought tears to my eyes, but I knew I couldn't remain in that place of sorrow. Just as William had said, I had to take action against Emily. I needed to fulfill his wish for justice. Emily, I came to see you again today. Welcome, Mary. Even after William's passing, I continued to visit Emily's cafe. My routine didn't change even after learning the truth from William's letter, but my perception of Emily had certainly shifted. The anger I felt during the closures of nearby shops and at William's funeral now felt justified with the newfound knowledge. Would you like the usual cake set today? Yes, please. Surprise me with your choice of cake, I replied. Emily smiled warmly as she efficiently prepared the cake set. The cafe seemed quieter than before. Since William's death, Emily had adjusted the cafe's operating hours, but continued to run it on her own. While I had wanted to offer help before, my job had prevented me from doing so. But now, things are different. Emily, would you mind if I helped out at the cafe? I know it must be challenging. Though it was a bold request, I felt compelled to see Emily from a different perspective. That's very kind of you, but aren't you tired from work, Mary? No, I'm fine. Please let me help, I insisted. Initially hesitant, Emily seemed touched by my offer. Well then, if you're willing to help, perhaps I could extend our hours a bit. I nodded eagerly, grateful for the chance to get involved. As I prepared for another day at the cafe, the weight of William's revelations hung heavy on my mind. Despite my inner turmoil, there was still a part of me that desperately wanted to believe in Emily's innocence. She had been a pillar of support for me in the past, and that loyalty was hard to shake. However, my wavering hope was shattered when I overheard Emily's conversation one morning. There's been another troublesome shop opening up. I'll pay, so handle it the same way. Emily's voice, usually warm and comforting, now carried a chilling edge that sent shivers down my spine. It was clear she was involved in something deeply troubling. That moment marked the end of my doubts. I knew then that William's suspicions were founded, and I could no longer deny the truth. Emily was not who I thought she was. 2 weeks later, on another quiet morning before opening, I heard Emily's voice again, speaking in the same dark tone. Yes, just like that. All right, then that settles it. Next time in a week. Got it? See you then. I waited until she finished her call and then approached her with a resolve that had been building inside me. Emily, who are you talking to? I asked, my voice steady despite the unease brewing within me. Whoa, you startled me. Were you here? Emily replied, visibly caught off guard. Yes, I've been here for a while. Who are you talking to? I persisted, determined to get answers. It's someone you don't know, Mary. Don't worry about it. Let's get ready. Emily deflected, trying to change the subject. I've already finished preparing. Could you please tell me who you were talking to? I insisted, unwilling to let her brush it off. Emily's gaze hardened, and she hesitated before responding. It's just business, Mary. Nothing for you to concern yourself with. Her vague response only fueled my suspicion. I took a deep breath, gathering my courage to confront her directly. You were conversing with the mafia, weren't you? What? There's no point in trying to conceal it any longer. With those words, I placed the photos and USB that William had handed me onto the counter. Emily's eyes widened in shock. Confronted with the undeniable evidence, she let out a heavy sigh. What's all this? William left it behind. It contains proof of your ties to the mafia, how you orchestrated the closure of other stores. Everything. You might have disposed of it, but there's also a contract you signed with the mafia on this USB. I wish I could deny it, but with you knowing this much, I can't really refute it, can I? You're correct about my association with the mafia and my involvement in shutting down stores. It's all true. I was taken aback by how easily Emily admitted to her actions, but then she said something shocking. But really, isn't it okay to do this much? If they didn't want their shops crushed, they shouldn't have opened near mine. That's too authoritarian. Surely there are people who want to open their shops in this area. What's wrong with fulfilling that dream? This place isn't exclusively yours, Emily. Shut up. Other people's circumstances don't matter. It's their fault for interfering with my shop, Emily snapped, slamming the counter in anger. Everyone is so irritating. Why do they have to meddle with me? Is it such a crime to be successful? Even William. Honestly, if he hated this environment, he should have just disappeared quietly without leaving anything behind. How can you say that about William? Disappeared quietly? That's not the issue. Isn't there a proper way to do things? Getting involved with the mafia for the sake of a shop, that's just not right. Do you realize it's a crime? A crime? I don't know about that. If you don't get caught, anything goes. You wouldn't have known if William hadn't told you, right? Unable to refute her logic, I looked down. Seeing my reaction, Emily said triumphantly, See? You didn't know anything. Poor thing, getting dragged into this. Getting dragged into this. It's true, isn't it? I never thought William, who feared the mafia, would leave behind evidence. At that moment, I began to wonder what Emily truly thought about William. I had assumed Emily cared for William, but perhaps I was mistaken. Emily, what do you really think about William? Upon hearing my question, Emily's lips curled upwards before she blurted out, I don't think much of him at all. Not much, honestly. He was a nuisance. Stunned by her response, I stood in disbelief. Emily continued, seemingly enjoying recounting the events. I considered enlisting the mafia's help for the sake of the store, but he resisted. Despite my insistence that it was for the store's benefit, he kept refusing. which was quite bothersome. Eventually, he relented and went along with my plan. Still, any fondness I had for him vanished when he opposed me because he didn't prioritize the store. William was simply being rational. If he were my son, he should have understood my intentions. I'm not concerned with rationality. A child should simply listen quietly to their parents. Emily smirked maliciously, brushing off the notion. Yet, she seemed oblivious to her actions, or perhaps understood them, but refused to acknowledge them, maintaining a facade of composure. Regardless of her reasons, her selfish and unethical behavior was undeniable. Emily, how did you feel when William died? Did you ever consider it might be your fault? Why would I think that? Once someone is gone, it's done. But didn't your actions push William to the edge? His letter said he couldn't bear it anymore. You pressured him into dealing with the mafia and burdened him with secrets. It all built up until he couldn't handle it. Stop it. What, playing detective now? Don't be ridiculous. It seemed I struck a nerve. Emily cut me off, raising her voice. Then she glanced at the evidence on the counter. And really, leaving these proofs out like this? Just scraps of paper. Emily grabbed the photos and ripped them to shreds. Hey, are you going to destroy the USB too? I tried to reach for it, but Emily slapped my hand away. Ouch! Don't touch that! She then grabbed the USB and threw it into a tub of water. What are you doing? Now all the evidence is gone, right? And since you know everything, doesn't that make you just like me? Do you even understand your own position? It's true. I know everything now. But it's because William entrusted me to seek justice against you. He regretted getting involved with the mafia. He ended his own life because he couldn't bear it anymore. I'm speculating, but didn't William try multiple times to break ties with the mafia and persuade you? Emily glared at me fiercely. What about it? Didn't you disregard William's warnings, focusing only on short-term gains and refusing to veer from the wrong path? Shut up! What do you know? Don't avoid this. You knew, didn't you? You knew how William truly felt? Shut up! In an instant, Emily seized my collar and pulled me down forcefully. It happened so swiftly that I was taken aback. Ow! Do you even realize what you've done? You've ruined my life. Because of you. If you hadn't started acting strangely from the beginning. Shut up. Can't you just listen quietly? Emily's agitation was unlike anything I had seen from her before. Normally, I might have been frightened, but for some reason, fear didn't grip me. Just as Emily was about to grab my collar again, the door to the shop swung open. What's going on? Police! What? Emily released my collar in shock. Before approaching Emily, I had contacted the police and explained everything. I had also handed over the evidence, and the police were informed about the situation. Ideally, I should have arrived with them, but I stubbornly wanted to hear the truth directly from Emily one last time, talking to her in a situation where the police could intervene at any moment. We need to hear more about this. Please come with us. The police separated Emily from me and began guiding her towards their car. Wait, what? You deceived me? What do you mean you called the police? That's not the point. I stood up and watched as Emily was escorted away. You always talk big. Just be quiet. She was reprimanded by the officers and resumed walking towards the police car. Emily's posture seemed more defeated than ever before. Was this the justice William sought? I couldn't say for sure. I was simply entrusted with his wish for justice. But with the police involved, Emily's and the mafia's crimes were exposed, and justice was served. Considering William left behind evidence and tried to prevent Emily from getting involved with the mafia, this must have been the justice he envisioned. Back home, I looked at William's memorial portrait. William, we did it, I whispered. Later, it was revealed that Emily had committed additional crimes, resulting in a prison sentence. Several mafia members associated with Emily were also arrested. According to the police, all of Emily's criminal activities were tied to her business. It's understandable that she may have resorted to illegal means to protect her shop. I empathize with Emily's circumstances, but there are proper ways to handle challenges. If she had chosen a different path, perhaps there could have been a future where William didn't take his own life. No one desires a future where happiness is out of reach. I often find myself reminiscing about the early days when Emily first opened her shop. If I could turn back time, I would return to those happier moments, reflecting on them frequently. Since that incident, I've cut off all contact with Emily. The last image I have of her was one filled with anger as she was taken away. Now, 2 years later, I've relocated and am leading a tranquil life. Occasionally, I recall Emily's furious expression, but it's not haunting. Yet, it was a frightening experience, and I certainly hope to avoid such turmoil in the future. After everything had settled, I called James to express my gratitude. He had been concerned about me and had been leading a restless life himself. If William hadn't entrusted the letter to James, if James hadn't honored William's wishes, I wonder what kind of future would have awaited me. Now, I hope to continue living this peaceful life. It's what I desire most at this moment. As I contemplate this, I find solace in the thought that William is watching over me, gazing